Okay, so guys, if you have any questions at all while I'm going through the bits today, please just stick them in the chat box. I'll try and answer them as I go along. Just as a bit of an intro, thanks for coming along. Appreciate you. Probably a lot of you might well have all been on Zoom all day today, so another 20 minutes of Zoom probably wasn't on your top priority list, but hopefully today I'm going to be able to help you with some motivation and some well-being advice. The bootcamp, this is our second session. So we actually did our first session last week, and there's the basic aim, or the aim of the mission for us at Life on Time, is to be able to give you guys some motivation and inspiration. There's four areas that we're going to be focusing on. We focused last week on finding your why and connecting with your purpose and your values. And I'll just recap that for the people that weren't here last week. So what we're meaning by that is, the idea is that we want to try and connect with your original purpose. Maybe with teaching at the moment, I can imagine it's a real challenge. And maybe some of you are thinking, why am I still doing this? So sort of maybe connecting back to what your values are, which can offer some real good motivation for you. The world at the moment is pretty crazy. Probably not a lot of you guys don't necessarily feel like you've got a lot of control. I know I don't feel like I've got a lot of control. You watch the news. So it's so important to try and focus on what you can do to control your own life and your own behavior. And that is actually something that we can do. So we do have control over what we do. And it's really good opportunity now, January, looking forward and trying to sort of plan ahead about your own things that you can control. So a good analogy, if it's raining outside, we can't stop it raining, but we could wear a coat. So similar, we can't stop COVID, but we can do stuff to maybe try and make ourselves feel a bit better. You got, as teachers, you are obviously caring for others. You're there to help others. So I think sometimes it can be probably quite easy to forget about yourself, but I think your own self-care, and you might all know this, but your own self, you won't be able to care for other people if you don't care for yourself. So hopefully this 10, 15, 20 minutes once a week will just allow you maybe your time just to think about your values, what you want to achieve, and trying to get some pleasure out of that. So yeah, if pen and pencil might be handy today, if you can grab hold of something. And yeah, so just to recap on last week, values, some people might not understand, but values are different to goals. So why we're so passionate about values is that actually you can just let somebody in. Values are so important because they can't actually ever be achieved, and values are like our guide. You might be able to set lots of goals, and there's lots of, goal setting is great, but for example, if you're setting goals around getting a new job, earning more money, getting a new car, those sort of things you can tick off, but they might not necessarily make you happy and feel fulfilled. Whereas a value, if you're living by your values, and a value could be feeling that you're healthy, feeling that you're helping, you're inspiring people, those are the types of things that are values. So for the people that weren't here last week, just jot down maybe some ideas of values of what you want to aspire to be. Really good question to get that out of you is, on your 80th birthday, try and thinking ahead. On your 80th birthday, somebody stands up and starts talking about you and starts telling the audience, or it could be obviously it's a birthday party, telling them about you and your positives and what you do. What would you want them to say? What would you want that to be in the speech? Would you want them to say you were a funny, fun-loving, caring type person? They're all the type of values. So they're all the sort of the nuts and the bolts and the foundations, which is why I started the boot camp on this, because I think you need to get that in place, and it's a good opportunity to sort of get back in connection with those. Today, I want to go through how to actually then connect those values to some goals. So goals can be super powerful. You can pretty much, I believe, achieve pretty much anything if you set decent goals and you can then break them down. So I think that even if you're sitting there today, you might be feeling a bit downhearted, you might have had a good day, you might have had a bad day. it's actually looking ahead and trying to think of something that you can look forward to, that you want to achieve, that you can then connect to those values, which is going to help you, is going to guide you towards those values, is something that we want to try and do today. So I'm just going to really, in a quite a brief session, just give you some real sort of fundamental tips on how to do that. Next week, we'll be going through some mental skills to help you improve your well-being, sort of mindfulness, meditation, nutrition, some sort of fairly basic stuff, but really, really key, some really cool tips out there which you can do and you can pick up and take away straight away. So that's next week, and then we'll try and put it all together, and we'll try and give you some extra resilience. Hopefully the first 3 weeks might have helped you. Resilience is one of those words that's bandied around quite a bit right now, and actually resilience sort of combines so many different things. So we're going to be talking about that on our final week. So without further ado, we're going to get cracking. If anybody's got any questions or anything, please give me a shout. I'll try and answer them as I go along. So how to make positive change. I'm hoping obviously everybody can see the screen. How to make positive change through values-based goal setting. We're trying to look here at beginning with the end in mind. So it's very easy to get bogged down in the stuff that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, and we completely and utterly lose sight of actually what we're doing it for. So it's always key, not necessarily on a day-to-day basis, but definitely on a weekly basis, just to remind yourself of what you're here, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. So trying to focus on the end, and then we work through a process. So hopefully with the guys from last week will have done this, but if you haven't done it, just come up with some values. So this can be really simply done by a spider diagram. I will actually just show you my really bad attempt at a spider diagram. Just bear a second, just zoom through those. So this is my attempt. Just did it very roughly the other day. Obviously I have got a lot clearer view, but this was my sort of, if I was going to do it now. So very basic spider diagram, values in the middle, and just come up with some sort of words that you sort of inspire you, of what you're about, maybe what you got into teaching for. So yeah, so once we've sort of got to that point, what we then want to do is we've got those values all noted down. We want to probably start brainstorming what are the goals that are associated with those values. What goals could you set yourself? Maybe not right now, but maybe you could come up with a couple that could help you on that road to achieving those, not achieving because you can't achieve a value, but guiding you towards living by your values. And just try and think of some goals that you can do. And a good way of thinking is, if you take the fear, take money out of it, what is something that you really want to achieve? And then write that down, because we'll smart check them in a minute, and that's the next part. But really, anything is possible. So it's a really good idea. And you're just noting it down. You're not spreading it around the world, telling everybody that's what you're going to do, but just noting it down, coming up with these ideas, and just dreaming big. Try and come up with something that actually you really want to achieve, and just making sure they are connected to a value. So once you've brainstormed that and you've got some ideas, obviously you're not going to, I'll spend probably an hour, a couple of hours doing this and going into some detail. So if you've got time after this, do this. Smart check them. So this is a very old technique, but smart check, smart goals. So this means that when you look at those goals, you do need to make them specific. You need to make them measurable. You need to make sure that they're actually achievable. So when I said dream big, you know, if you're 75 years old and you want to go to the moon, possibly that's not necessarily something you're going to be able to achieve. However, I still think dream big. So it's got to be achievable, but you obviously need to dream big, but have that sort of idea. And a really good idea for this is, if you aren't sure about this, speak to somebody you really trust and you respect their opinion, and ask them. Get it out of your own head, speak to them. Don't speak to somebody who you think might give you the answer that you probably would expect. Maybe ask somebody else and just see what they think. You can even ask me. And relevant, they need to be relevant. So they need to be relevant to your value. So just making sure that, you know, you're not setting a goal around and spending all your time looking to make as much money and have a biggest house that you could possibly have, where actually your values aren't around money and about that type of thing. So just make sure that they're relevant. And then really, really crucial is time frame them. So what I do not want to be doing to you guys is saying, right, go and set some goals, and setting loads of goals and asking yourself to do them all next week, and then your stress levels go up, and then actually you're feeling worse than you did before. So it's about making the time frame realistic as well. So start jotting down maybe when you think potentially you could do those things. So now we've got, in an ideal world, you've got your values, you've got some ideas for goals, and you're smart checking them in your head now. And then the final thing is create actions. Now, this is the really, really important part of this, is breaking those goals down into little tiny goals that you look at, or tiny actions that you think you could do quite easily, and making them really simple. So this takes the fear out of the goal. So you might be scared of, or we all have fear about, my God, I mean, I didn't think I'd be doing a Zoom demo to teachers on this, because I would much prefer to be standing in front of somebody talking live rather than doing it on a Zoom demo. But I've done a few different things to try and get myself ready for this. So it's taking that fear away and just making it into smaller bite-sized chunks that actually make that goal seem achievable, and then again, time framing those as well. So that's a real whistle-stop tour of how to sort of go from your values down to sort of creating day-to-day actions, and that can make a change. Now, what this could look like is, if my slides work, hang on a second. It's my dodgy version of that. Okay, so how could it look? So I've just made a couple of examples here. These are just examples, so please don't, every goal, we're all on different journeys. So, we're all in different circumstances. So I've just made these up. These aren't mine, but these are just made up options, just to give you an idea of how I see the process working for you. Again, it's down to you. But this is just an example. So you'd have the value at the top. Let's say one of your values is to be inspirational. If you're teachers, you need to have some of that in you, obviously, to try and get kids to learn, especially I can imagine right at this moment in time, on remote learning over a laptop. So if that's one of your values, then you need to have some goals that can lead to that. So a goal could be learning to play music. If you played music, you could potentially inspire people by playing music. You could inspire your family as a goal to start exercising. And then there's smaller actions for each of those. You could, if you wanted to start playing music, you research it, you look at lessons. So all of that stuff. So none of this is actually rocket science. It's all really simple stuff, but it's just about spending some time thinking about yourself. It's about you. If you want to be good, if you want to be a good family member, if you want to be a good teacher, it's actually, you've got to look after yourself and create a plan. And those people that think you don't need a plan and just want to go floating along the river, then that's fair enough. That's each their own. But if you were on a boat and you didn't know where you were going, you could end up anywhere, and that's the problem. So the idea with this is you are actually trying to create a plan for your life, and I think it's a really positive thing to do right now. You can do it. COVID's going on everywhere, but you can plan what you want to do and what your behaviors are going to be doing. So for you, just another value, an example of value is to be healthy. Probably a very good option. If you don't have to be, but I would suggest a value is a healthy one is good. And then you can set some goals around that. Again, being specific. I've put lose 5k in weight. You might potentially want to put 5k on in weight. I'm not suggesting that losing weight is all good, but then you set actions around that, and you set smaller, really small, bite-sized actions, which hopefully can get you on your way. And then once you start doing these small little things, you'll start getting a bit of momentum, and the momentum will hopefully get you on, and you'll suddenly realize, wow, I can actually do this. So that what I would focus on now, though, especially with COVID and with the uncertainty around everywhere, is that make your the values are cool, because your values are going to stick with you. So whether there's COVID going on or not, your values probably will be the same. but your goals, make them really short term for the time being. I wouldn't necessarily be going planning stuff that's years in advance. I think it's really important that you're focusing on stuff that you can do maybe within your means at the moment. So, you know, there's a lot of restrictions around. So make your goals obviously around those. So that's where the smart stuff comes into it. So making them smart, making them specific, measurable, and actually achievable in what the circumstances that we've got. Yeah, and then I guess my final, I mean, has anybody got any questions on that? So I've given quite a lot of information pretty quickly. Has anybody got any questions? No, okay, no problem. So I guess to finish up, really, focus on the short-term stuff at the moment. And although it's very good to plan and do all of this type of thing, it's also really, really key at the moment to also focus on the present. It's banded around a lot. It's good to have a plan. It's good to have these goals. This is all really, really important. But it's also, and we'll go on to this next week, of having skills to be able to stay present. And I'm just going to give you a really quick tip now, which hopefully can help give you a little bit of a boost towards the end of the day. I try and do this maybe every day. Sometimes I don't, but I try and do it every day, is asking myself 3 or 4 questions, asking myself one question: what am I grateful for today? And it's just trying to build gratitude. And by answering those questions to yourself, giving yourself maybe 2 or 3 or 4 reasons every day, and doing it in the morning and doing it in the evening, can actually bring you back to the present, and can make you feel grateful and lift your mood. So that's my sort of final tip of the day. To finish off with, we are trying to set up sort of like a teachers hub. So we feel with the Life on Time, we have another part of our business, which is the school and teacher wellbeing platform. So we are looking at trying to create like a teacher support hub, where we may do monthly webinars similar to this on lots of different topics. And with goal setting and values-based goal setting, it can get complicated. You can end up with bits of paper everywhere. We've got an app that does it. So the idea is actually that what we've just been through, all those values and all those scheduled actions, can fit within our app, and you can keep track of it. And that is, we're looking at £9.50 per month for teachers that want to get involved in that once this bootcamp finishes. So that's pretty much it. What we're going to be doing next week is trying to actually focus on some skills, wellbeing skills. If anybody's suffering from any anxiety, sleep problems, and maybe just feeling a bit down, we're going to try and just do some basic skills on that. Also got Jez coming on next week, or the week after, doing some fitness stuff, some really simple 5-minute fitness things you can do in your living room to get your heart pumping, and hopefully get you feeling a bit more positive if you're feeling a bit down. So with that, has anybody got any other questions? No? Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming along, guys, and yeah, hopefully see you next week.
Thanks, John.